Are you struggling with roadblocks as a woman in the challenging and constantly changing world of corporate America? If you feel stuck in your career, you may be holding yourself back and may not even realize it. Prepare to be enlightened by the meaningful discussions here at the No Woman Left Behind podcast. Each week, gather the insight you need to break down those walls of limiting beliefs. Unleash your full potential and unlock the leader within. Listen to raw conversations with corporate women as they share inspiring stories with the purpose of obtaining their dream career and living a truly fulfilling life. Here's your host, Rosie Zilinskas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the No Woman Left Behind podcast show. I'm Rosie Zilinskas, your podcast host. Today we're talking to Peggy Scott. There are some very concrete reasons why I invited Peggy onto the show. The very first one is we're going to be talking about language and how language impacts your actions. The second thing is making sure that your mindset is in the right place so that you can get that next promotion. And the third thing is core values. So those are the things we're going to be talking about. And I will tell you a little bit about Peggy. Peggy is a master image and presence branding coach, author, and podcaster. She is passionate about having people shine their very best through their personal brand presence, which then extends to every part of their life. She has 30 years of developing and delivering transformational programs that produce phenomenal and lasting results for her clients. What distinguishes Peggy from others in her field is her innate ability, professional training, and years of experience to recognize and listen what's wanted and needed. She offers caring, concise guidance that will shift your mindset, limiting ideas or assumptions about yourself, removing anything that does not serve your mission, purpose, and presence. This is going to be a very interesting conversation because, again, we talk about how your inner dialogue really impacts you and your future. So stay tuned. All right, Peggy, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. Peggy, I'm going to start right off the bat. Last week, I wrote an article about women knowing their worth and how to be able to articulate their worth so that they can move up the corporate ladder. So how do you recommend that someone can get recognized to continue to move up the corporate ladder?
That's a great question. And by the way, I was in corporate for 15 years, so I do know intimately what this is all about. Plus the work that I do with women and men. It's really being very, very clear about your core values. And what I mean by that is when I walk in the room, my core values go with me. And that's where I get the posture, the commitment, the purpose. All of that allows me to stand more confidently in my power and what I'm worth. And that's half the battle, is just really standing for who you are, because, we're just being perceived by how we show up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for those of you listeners that don't know what core values are, I always like to do a very simple example. So if health, for example, is one of my core values, I'm not going to go get a job with a tobacco company because their core value is not health, because they know that their products cause cancer. So there's a disconnect there. So you always want to make sure that your core values are in line with whatever the core values for the corporation are.
It's so incredibly important. And you're right. So for me, it's dignity and integrity and really just having that respect. So I consider core values, and I love what you said there, but the core values are your ground of being. That's where you get to say how it is for you. Mm-hmm. And you know where to, if somebody's stepping over that and, not treating you with respect or dignity or whatever, you know what you can do for yourself, strengthen that or, find another avenue. Standing in your values is really what I'm committed to having each and every woman. Mm-hmm. And make sure your boundaries are handled. So do not let your boundaries become a blurred line. So keep your boundaries clear and present for yourself, especially in the corporate world.
Exactly. So, Peggy, I know that you are a master image and branding presence coach.
A lot to
So,
say.
tell me a little bit about what is it that an image coach does?
So that's great. What I do is I work with the inside. So I'm talking about your values, your purpose, your well-being practices. That's your internal game. That's your inner presence. I'm working with you on your overall presence. So image has to do with your internal presence and how it's reflected in your clothing, in your body language, in your language itself, how you speak, sitting at the table, being willing to stand, there confidently. So its image is the whole package, in and out. And so I take people through that process because if you don't have those aligned, and I say your presence is your most powerful marketing message.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. And I also know that you say that you have 1 minute to make an impression. I've actually heard that it's like a lot less than that. But whenever you're trying to talk to your manager about your career opportunities, or maybe you're in an interview, what are some of the things that people can focus on? Because as you said, the whole package is part of what you're marketing. You're marketing yourself. So how would someone know how to be more effective?
So I always start with your mindset. So be clear about what you want to have happen in that meeting. Very clear. And that is managing your current mindset. Do I deserve this? Do I want this? Am I, pleading for it, or am I standing for it? No, this is what I'm bringing to the table. So being very clear about your mindset. What are you bringing to the table? And your purpose. What do you want to accomplish? So just being very clear about that. What else did you say about that?
Yeah, no, as far as like the image. So how does someone use their outer image to go ahead and secure a next promotion, or even a conversation with a manager when they're in the company and they want to get a promotion?
And I'm working with someone who wants to move from a director to chief customer officer. And she says that she shakes a bit whenever she gets in front of the C-suite or whenever she has to sit with her manager. And I said, well, before you go in, clear yourself. And maybe you find someone you can just clear with and get very, very straight about what it is you want and stand for that. So your posture, how you present yourself, what you're wearing, make sure you're ready to go. But mainly, I would say it's that internal dialogue that's invisible, but definitely relays volumes. So be very clear. And that's why I say, get someone that can clear you before you go in for something as important as getting your promotion.
Right. And so one of the things that I have been coining lately is, again, make sure that you are able to articulate your worth with massive confidence and conviction. So I liked what you said about the language. So let's talk a little bit more about language. You keep saying that someone needs to work on that mindset. And I think the language that is going on in your head is part of the problem on the mindset. So let's talk a little bit about the language and what people are saying to themselves that can impact their mindset.
This is some of the conversation, perhaps. I sure hope he hears me confidently. It's the hope, and I don't mean to make it so silly, but I really want this. I really hope for this. So it's the language you say to yourself. And that's why I say get it very clear before you have, and not be aggressive either. There's a way to just get the way you put what's in your head, what you speak about yourself. And we do this almost every time we look in the mirror. Every time we look in the mirror, we're like, well, all right. And that dialogue needs to be dismissed.
Yes.
Needs to go, okay, that's not what's playing out today. I am worth it. I have what it takes. I don't have to prove it. I'm clear about my purpose, and I'm really clear about what I bring to the table here. And those are the conversations, the languaging. I also talk about the tone of your voice. If you're stressed, the pitch of your voice goes up. Or if you're feeling down, so make sure everything is in alignment with what you're up to, your purpose, which is your, that's what's leading you, and get everything in alignment with that.
I like that. So the language, so if someone is, for example, berating themselves or thinking, gosh, I'm never going to get that position, or why bother applying? Is that part of the conversation that's happening around the mindset?
Absolutely. You're hoping, you're wishing, you're thinking, I don't know, and unfortunately, a lot of women, and we do. I did a course in 1992 where we put ourselves in a boardroom and we were not being happy with each other. We were not standing for each other. And there's an opportunity here. So you have to also be that for yourself.
Yes.
And not like, geez, I hope that works, or I don't know. I don't know if I'm up for that game. Challenge yourself. Be bigger than that.
Yes.
Allow yourself to grow and then stand confidently in that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people want to stay in their comfort zone, but quite candidly, when you're looking to move up the corporate ladder to get that seat at the table, that's when you really need to be out of your comfort zone. You need to do things that are not in your wheelhouse so that you can expand, and that's how you grow and you develop. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's like anything that you started newly. It might have been, concerning, or you're nervous about it, or whatever it is. Reflect on what is it you did that pulled yourself forward. And so you might just fake it till you make it. I hate to use that, but that's what you do.
Yeah.
You stand, you go, definitely. And, it's practice.
Right.
And so you might also choose someone like yourself or myself to just practice with.
Exactly.
I'm going into an interview. I want to be promoted. Here's where I'm standing. And you just have to build that muscle of standing for yourself.
Yes. And of course, that inner dialogue, the more negative you are, the more you kind of put that negativity out into the universe, and negativity begets negativity. So if you are really wanting to get that next promotion, mindset is, I agree with Peggy, the number one place that you need to start. I do know that there's another person that I follow, and she says, that you have to treat yourself almost as you have like a parent personality within yourself and a child personality, so that when you're like being negative, kind of summon the parent personality and be gentle and kind and have compassion for yourself, because you're berating yourself, and you're almost your own worst enemy sometimes, right?
I would say most of the time. We are not our best friend. And then we're looking to have people show up. And how the heck are they going to step into our world if we're not standing for ourselves? So you're absolutely right. You have to clear the mind, always clear it before you go into any dialogue like that. And we wake up with it every morning. What we already have, what's wrong going on. And all you have to do is just keep practicing. Just flip it. Yeah, I got that. Okay. So here's where I stand. So I have a mantra that I repeat daily so I can, I am a powerful woman that's here to make a difference. And everyone I touch, I inspire, even if it's the person at the grocery store. So I practice that rather than, I don't know.
I like the phrase that you said a couple times, standing in your own power. Let's talk a little bit more about what that actually means, and what are some of the actionable things that someone can do to stand in their own power.
So I ask a few questions where I go, how do you want to be perceived? Credible, trustworthy, intelligence. So you start to ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish? What is my ambition? What is my purpose here? Let that be bigger than the conversation that's going on in your head. Just start to write down what it is you want. Start creating that as the conversation. And standing in your power means being clear about who you are, what you have to offer, what you bring to the table, your purpose, your values. Your values are your cornerstone. Your purpose, and make sure you honor your boundaries. And there's a whole body of work that I do. So all of this, and making sure your well-being practices are in. If you need to be walking every day and you're not, you start to work against yourself. And then the conversation goes on. I'm not doing so well, or I'm not in practice. Whatever you would say. When I say stand in your power, it's a full body work. It's like, I know who I am. I'm about my purpose. I have an ambition. I am a little scared about moving forward, but I'm going to do it because I dare to be as extraordinary as I can be.
I love that. I love that because women need the steps and the encouragement from other women. And one of the things that I always talk about is women supporting women. And I think I had mentioned this to you last time that there's this influencer, her name is Rachel Hollis, and she always says, women that don't support other women should go to hell. Rachel's words. So, but I thought that was pretty funny because I am in the second half of my career, and my mission is to eradicate the gender gap from the corporate world by empowering women in their career development. And kind of a little bit of a tangent there, I do know that some states, are now passing legislation on the pay transparency laws, they're calling them. So that's really cool because I know that that's going to help eradicate the pay gap in the corporate world. So I'm really excited about that. There's about 17 different states now that have these pay transparency laws. And it's really important to figure out what your state is doing because some states will say that the employers have to post the pay scale. Mm-hmm. Other states, you have to request it. So just a little bit of a tangent there. But I think it's really important for women to support other women. So just like we are, right, Peggy?
Yeah, absolutely. And, there was a time, like I said, in 1992, when I was doing this course, we were killing each other at a boardroom. And I thought, wait a minute, if we're going to get anywhere as a community, and women are the heart of community. I'm just going to say it because I believe it. But the truth is, we can make a big difference when we have each other's backs. And unfortunately, it's not always practiced in the corporate world. One of the things that I would suggest to people is to go on TED Talk and watch some powerful leaders like Sheryl Sandberg. Yes. The thing is, when you look at her and you listen to her, and she's talking about having a seat at the table, or there's a couple of other people on TED Talk that allow, stretch your body, allow yourself to get bigger. Just watch what they're doing and listen, and just keep letting that come into your mind that that's who you are really.
Yes, for sure. And actually in Sheryl Sandberg's book, she talks about women working in the White House, where one woman would say like an idea in a room full of men, and the men would just not hear her. And then so another woman, knowing that the original woman wanted to talk about that idea, she would repeat and say, oh, look at that, Susan said, and then she would say and then the men were like, oh yeah, so it's almost like men don't see us initially until you're almost like on Donkey, like pick me on Shrek, because it's almost like they don't see you when you first say an idea. So the women in the White House at the time had made a pact that they were going to support each other. So then the men
And I love this because it's not about taking credit. It's about being a community mind that works and being recognized. And not that it has to be you personally, like you got the credit for it. The other thing I would say, and I'm working with this woman that is going for a promotion, and that is, okay, if they disagree, don't worry about it. Keep saying stand for what you believe, and they may fuss about it or disagree or whatever. That's okay. Don't let it stop you. Don't shrink because it's that. Allow yourself to keep expanding into it. I'm like, oh, well, I understand that you don't agree with me, but here's where I stand with that. Yes. And you can do it with elegance and grace without knocking people over.
Right. I find it so unfortunate and quite honestly irritating that men can be aggressive and it's okay, but women, they have to be passive or nice or, whatever the word of the day is. We can't be aggressive because if we're aggressive, then we're called different names.
Yeah, we all know them.
Yeah, we all know the names. So what are some other things, Peggy, that you think a woman can do as far as their presence that we already haven't talked about in the workforce to just talk to people and let them know that they're working towards this promotion? What else can they possibly do?
When I was in a corporate setting, and I was in a couple of them over 15 years, and I would seek out other women leaders and ask their support. I would get mentors and say, hey, I'm looking at going for this promotion and I'm having a challenge in how to figure out how to get there and how to speak about it. And how did you do it? So be willing to ask for some help from women that you feel would give you some help in that in regards. And maybe they will, give you support in that by going to the manager. But quite frankly, it's really about getting a mentor that you can grow with, maybe one or two. And you might even consider having a male mentor to just say, well, what is it that I could do that might be getting in the way of me not showing up as the powerful leader that I know myself to be? What do you see?
Oh my gosh. I think that's a big, big idea today because we always do talk about women mentoring women, but we really haven't mentioned finding a male mentor because we could learn from the males, right? I mean, we're not here knocking males or anything like that, but we are here supporting women. So I really like that one.
And be careful not to collapse because he says, well, you're not blah, 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 whatever it is. Don't collapse in it. Go, all right, thanks. You don't have to buy everything, but get someone you trust that you know that he can hear you as the powerful woman as you are. And all you're asking for is just a little coaching to say, well, what do you see? And again, don't shrink. Allow yourself to hear it and then take it or not. But it's, you're growing. I did that and it worked.
Yes.
It worked really well.
And so a little bit of a tangent to that is when you do get feedback, be prepared to hear some constructive criticism, because I think a lot of people go in and ask for feedback, but then they're not prepared to really hear what they're going to hear. So I always recommend for people to be ready, listen, receive, and then apply whatever tools you learn from that feedback.
Absolutely. And really, that is it. Well, there are people that will go in and get feedback and go, well, no, and argue with it. And that's not getting feedback. And that's not allowing whatever you could learn from that.
Right. Yeah. And that's a big difference between having a growth mindset where you go in, you receive the feedback, you apply it, and you're grateful for the feedback, because if it wasn't for that feedback, you wouldn't be able to uncover your blind spots. But if you go in with a fixed mindset where you're angry and you're just annoyed and irritated and you walk out of there going, they don't know what they're talking about, that's no good. That's a fixed mindset. So there's a great book I'm sure you're very well aware of, like the mindset book by Carol Dweck.
Yes.
So that's one book that I always recommend to people if they have problems with their mindset. That's always a good resource to go to.
Yes. Coaching, mentoring, get all the help you can get, because here's the thing. Women are natural leaders. It's the natural self-expression for each and every one of us. I watch my daughters, I watch other women, I've mentored a lot of women, and there is that natural ability that we have not taken on or been trained to lead like that, but we're doing it.
Right.
And get yourself coached. Get a mentor, because you are a leader, and think like a leader. Think like the leader that you are.
I love it. So I don't know if you've heard about this, Peggy, but millennials nowadays, and I've interviewed a few millennials, are now having conversations about salary. And I started 30 years ago, and that was a big, huge taboo there. That's a no, you don't talk about it. And some of these pay transparency laws that I had mentioned previously are saying that employers are not allowed to retaliate against the employee because they're talking salary, because that's one way of corporations not having to pay women what they're worth compared to males because we don't know what the salaries are. So I think that's pretty novel that millennials now are discussing salary, and they're very nonchalant about it. And they're very, which I think is great.
Yeah. I love them. They're very savvy, very on the edge, very willing. They're breaking the glass ceiling, if you will. They're doing it. And the thing that I love is, so you and I are mentors and, people that can offer help, but they also can offer their mentorship, if you will. So it's a two-way street. It's not the generation gap. It's between, okay, what can I learn from you? And you can learn from me. And I do a mastermind where we have millennials and people like my age and my daughters, and we're learning from each other. Going back to your point, we could be better advocates for each other. And why not?
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So I know that you also talk about obviously, a lot of us are still online. So your online presence. So how is that different, or is it different than being in the office? And I know that a lot of people are being called back to the office these days, but because so many of us are still online, I wanted to talk a little bit about that online presence.
It is actually as important, if not more, because we have just this little box that we're relaying to it. We can't, and we're doing our best. And, it's great because we do get to read some body language, but what you need to have before, you got to be camera ready. Yes. Make sure your background is right. I mean, we can go through the details, but you need to come to the call ready. So well rested, makeup or no makeup, have the right colors on. You're ready to receive, and your attention needs to be out here with your audience rather than on yourself and how you look and what you're doing and what you're saying. Get it all clear before you get on camera. So that's where the coaching comes in is, okay, so let's talk about, and how do you get out here? Because after all, isn't that what we want? Is we want to get to the audience and not all about us? So exactly. That's how I do the coaching with people. And it's,
So the online presence, I think you said it's either you're bringing attention or you're distracting from yourself. So I imagine if you have a really bad background, or if you're just all disheveled, coming out of bed, that's definitely a distraction versus an attention. And like you said, the individual might just be like worried about how they look or whatever. So I love what you said about clearing all that, having everything in place and comfortable with how you look and how you're portraying yourself versus not. So
yes. And, casual meetings such as with your family, good. You can do anything you want there. But when you're conducting business, it's a professional appearance you're looking for. So even if you're wearing shorts on the bottom, it still works for you because you're not distracted by that. I'm going to make it real simple. Like if you don't have your nails done, if you don't have the right color on, if you don't have the right jewelry or whatever, anything that gets in the way of you being present and being out here with your audience or your guest or your prospect, take care of it before you get on. And you said in one of your forums is be camera ready. Yes. And the background needs the lighting, the noise factor, all of it needs to be considered.
Well, Peggy, I will give you and I both an A+ for today because we're camera ready and our backgrounds are nice.
Yes, we love it.
Okay, so now we've talked a lot about women supporting other women in that reverse mentorship. Have you mentored younger people? Yes. Have you coached younger people? And what is some of the conversation that you have been having with younger individuals today? And I'm talking like maybe millennials.
I'm working with a millennial who is very ambitious, but also she's very strong with herself. She doesn't have to prove anything really, but still she has this conversation that she gets nervous about speaking to the men in the C-level.
Oh.
In the C-suite. So the millennials are just ready to go, ambitious.
Yeah.
And so I, just dial it into, it's not 10 years from now, it's now. And what am I going to do in the next 2 years? And it's not as long as I used to have. I'm going to be in there. If I was less than 5 years at a job, I thought I was, anyway. they're like moving, and they're not interested. They get bored.
Yes.
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 So
So that's a
what
good
lights you
point.
up? What is it that lights you up? Where can you put your attention? Oh my gosh, I had a millennial working for me. He used to run everywhere. I go, where are you going? But he was done like at 2:00 in the afternoon. He says, well, I'm going to go home. And I go, okay, because everything was done. So I had to adjust. But yeah, they're moving faster, and I love working with them because they're very ambitious.
Yes. Yes, they are ambitions. Now, you said something a minute ago where sometimes women are busy and acquiring more. Well, maybe you didn't say this specifically, but what I heard was they're busy, they're ambitious. And I know that some women feel like they need to continue to acquire more degrees and acquire more certifications in order to prove themselves, and they never feel ready. When should enough education be enough?
Oh, that's a great question. Personally, I'm going to continue to educate myself, but I'm not doing it to prove my worth anymore.
Good.
Yeah. What I'm doing is to strengthen my competency, my skills, to expand my skills. And I do learn from the millennials in that way. Oh my goodness. On social media, I'm like, hi, I think I'm a little late in the game, but I'm learning. and I'm getting coached by someone who's like, well, you have to have the right hashtags and you have to post this and this and this. I'm like, okay. But I'm not educating myself to prove that I'm worth anymore. I did in the past. I have to have all these things on my resume and my degrees and everything. I bring what I have to the table in a very strong way, so it's really just expanding my skill set.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you made the distinction between someone that wants to educate themselves because they want to and because they're trying to expand themselves versus they have to prove something to somebody and they need another degree and whatnot. So, and I think if you do that, you're going to continue to spend money and you're going to continue to spin your wheels. I think it's almost better, Peggy, and let me know if you agree with this, instead of getting another certificate, work on your mindset.
I 100% behind you with that one, because I think degrees and educating all that and having a proper, resume and everything is great. But the mindset, what you bring to the table. I know people that haven't got all those degrees and they're CEOs.
Yeah.
You make it what you make it. And the mindset is the most powerful tool you have.
Absolutely. Well, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I recently wrote an article on LinkedIn, and it's about, again, knowing your worth and being able to articulate your worth with massive confidence and conviction. And so one of the things that I was talking about in the article is to have a plan. So have a folder, for example, with all of the projects that you worked on, have discussions and conversations, kind of not necessarily feedback, but talking to other people on what they have done for their career, because with every person that you talk to, you uncover a little nugget that you could possibly apply to you. I also talked about making sure that you keep track of your contributions and then be visible. And I think that's kind of where the image comes in, because for visibility, I say, if you are a subject matter expert, volunteer to do some kind of presentation to either your team or maybe a new hire, or maybe just to the department as a refresher. And that gives you the floor to be visible, to show your presence. And that's where you can really make a lot of gains in your career.
Yes. And I love it, because when I talk about presence, I consider it like your business collateral. Your website, your social media. You make sure that it speaks well of you. You make sure that the colors are right, everything is right. Why wouldn't you do that with your image? Because this is your best marketing message. So, is it in line with what your job is, what you want to project? I used to say, and I'll still say it, is that dress for where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, If you want to have an executive level position, you're going to have to put the gear on for that, and not like just a gear on, but really allow it to speak for you, because your clothing, your image, your body language, all that speaks volumes, and people are reading it, and people are also judging and evaluating all day long.
Absolutely. I think they say it takes like 6 seconds to make like just a physical first impression. So
yeah, well, think about it. They say 200 assessments. I'm like, yeah, my mind works that fast. And I go boom, 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 boom. Oh, she's from here. She's from there. I like her. I don't like her. I want to engage. I don't want to engage. And it's all just in the seconds that they get to see you.
Isn't that incredible? And it's like, sometimes, a person may rub me the wrong way. And when I like sit down and like think about it, I'm like, I have no idea why. It's just my brain.
And that's why I think the online presence needs to be on point now, because it's now and now and now. And so be happy with what you've got, be comfortable with what you got, and then project it, and then be confident in projecting it and learn. If it didn't work, you go and figure out what didn't work.
Right. And I think for people that don't necessarily know how, look at people around you, whether it's in the same organization or maybe other organizations. Obviously, a coach can help you, but if you don't need a coach, because you can look at people around that you admire that are actually maybe 3 to 5 years ahead of you, and how they are doing, what they are doing. So you want to try to emulate those people that are being successful. And I think that that's very helpful.
Yes, and that's where I was referring to. Also go on TED Talks or watch other powerful leaders, speakers, and that. And the thing is, we are mimicking and emulating others. Where I step in with the image part is it working for you? Does it work for you? How do you know? Where do you get your ideas? So where I help is, all right, what's your purpose, your values, this and that. And then we go, all right, let's get the right image going so that it's right in line with all that. Right. So it's like fabulous. When you walk in the door, they're like, I don't know who that is, but let's talk.
I love it. And then aside from that, just doing your homework on you with obviously your skills, make sure that you have assessments done, such as a strengths finder or, the DISC, or any of those assessments are always going to help you to identify your strengths and your weaknesses as well. But it's important for you to do your homework on yourself, and then also on the market. Like, how do you compare to the market? If you're going to talk to your manager about a possible promotion or even a salary increase, what's going on in the market for your particular job in relation to salaries and that kind of thing. So do your homework on yourself and the market as well.
Absolutely. And when I say get clear about your purpose, that creates a context. That creates something that you can, as they say, context is decisive. Yeah. If you say I'm a powerful woman and you really step into that, it's going to show up that way. If you keep convincing yourself that you're not, that's going to decide. So your purpose, be clear about your ambition and be willing to take the risk. Just go for it. If you fail, good. Don't consider it a failure. Consider it feedback.
Yes. I love it.
That's like, I
think it was, and I might be wrong because I'm terrible with quotes, but I think it was William Bell that said that he didn't fail 1,000 times. He just made another experiment or learned or something like that.
Part of it is people aren't really afraid of failure. They're mostly afraid of success. Oh no, what am I going to do? Oh no, I'm going to have to show up. Oh no, I'm going to have to perform.
Yes,
you can.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
So Peggy, I know we're running out of time, but before we go, I wanted to ask you if you could tell me in just like 2 or 3 minutes, how did you get to become a master image and branding presence coach?
I was born that way.
Okay, good. I love it.
No, but I did grow up in a very large family. We didn't have a lot. And so I really was committed to not pretending or anything, but I wasn't committed to looking like a poor waif or anything. I wanted to look great. So I put it together. But that became something that I enjoyed. And then along the way, and I've done a lot of different work. And then I also got professional training. I developed courses called Mastery of Great Looks and Presence of Self that I led for 15 years. It was
Wow.
extraordinary for men, women, and young girls. It was fabulous. And all of that was great. But here's the thing. I am so committed to people, women particularly, to show their best strengths and their best self. And I was very shy for a very long time. So I got trained. I got training. I opened myself up as much as I could. And what I'm committed to is having people shine their very best presence. And that can extend to every part of their life. And beauty really is at the heart of it for me. And I have this thing that if we lived in a world where there was no beauty, it would be very, very flattening to our spirit.
Yes.
I mean, we could just look at some Hunger Games in that one place, So for me, it's beauty, and it's really amping and allowing your extraordinary, unique expression of your beauty. I don't know if I answered your question,
Yes.
but what it is I am so committed to empowering people. And this is the gift. This is the gift I got. I go, okay, let me do it.
I love it. I love it. Oh my God. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, okay. So before we close, I would like for you to share 2 concrete tips that someone could apply to their career so that they can continue to advance and get a seat at the table.
Okay. So the top one would be core values. Establish your core values and take a look at, and if you don't have them, there's ways to go at it. You can go online and find it and go through that. But knowing your core values will give you the strength to stand there. Okay. And inside of that, what is your purpose? What do you want to accomplish? And then there's the conversation about your mindset. And you want to create a mindset, a mantra, a daily mantra. I am this. I have this. I'm a powerful woman that makes a difference, or whatever it is, and speak it to yourself every day. Whenever you have that upside down thought, you're like, oh, no. I am a powerful woman. So get your core values handled, get them clear for yourself, and manage your mindset. These are practical and powerful tools to use.
Absolutely. I love that. So, well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Peggy. I do believe you have a gift to offer to the listeners.
Yes, I'm offering a 30-minute, let's get started conversation. Well, all it is really a 30-minute complimentary session. And I'll take you through the process, and we can start with core values and start to define that. And then you see if you like it, and if you want to use it, great. If you want to work with me, fabulous. There's no push, but that's my gift, 30 minutes.
All right. Fantastic. Okay. So before I close this excellent episode, are any final words, Peggy?
Love yourself because you're worth it. Love yourself as much as you love anyone that you find that you love. And really, here's the other thing, is love into existence any part of yourself that you've put aside. My hips are too big. My face isn't right. I don't know if I have enough education. Love it back into existence. You're worth it. Dare to be extraordinary because you really, really are.
That's fantastic. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, Peggy, for your time. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you. This was great. Thank you.
What a great conversation with Peggy Scott. I really loved that Peggy brought a fresh idea to us, which is when you get a mentor, seek a male mentor. And the reason why we want to do that is because when you talk to a male mentor, you get, number one, a different perspective, but number two, you get the ability to ask them and pick their brain on things like, what language do you use? How would you approach the situation? How do you specifically ask to negotiate a salary? Things like that. So I think that is absolutely fabulous. And finally, I'm going to recap Peggy's 2 tips to advance in your career. Tip number 1 is establish your core values. She says, knowing your core values will give you the strength to stand for yourself. And then tip number 2 is manage your mindset. Create a daily mantra when that negative self-talk starts creeping into your brain. Swish it away and reframe it into a powerful statement, such as, I am a powerful woman, and believe it. And I know we've talked about power poses in the past, so make sure you go and do a Wonder Woman power pose where you stand with your hands on your hips and your chest out and your head high, and you reframe those negative thoughts into positive thoughts so that they can promote positive actions. So great show. Thanks again, Peggy, for being on. And last thing is, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Let these stories of self-encouragement and professional development serve as a guide in navigating through corporate America in the most practical and fulfilling way possible. Do not forget to subscribe to the show at nowomanleftbehind.com for more content like this. Leave a rating and share it with your friends because we want to make sure that no woman is left behind. Until I see you next time, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.